Hey guys. Alright, I'm back. I had a little bit of free time, so I finished up the intake. Sorry. Finished up the intake, and the cylinder heads on the Magnum job. It was actually a paying job, so that kind of went ahead of all the free jobs. So, I know, wifey likes money. So, this is how we finalized it. I'm going to just take this off. I'm going to spray some Dicam down the head so we can see a final on our liquid. You know what I'd like to show you? I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try to pause this and bring my little scope camera and see how well the gasket match looks on this. Now, I'm not a huge fan of gasket matching because I don't think a lot of people do it right. But because it can be tricky. But I want to show you how well this turned out and how I did it. All right, sorry about the light reflection. Very tough to actually show you guys what I'm trying to show you. Okay, I'm not sure how well that's going to show up, but what I do is I have the intake manifold literally about 30 thousandths smaller than the gasket, and I have the head about 30 thousandths bigger than the gasket. Now, someone's going to say, "Oh, Charlie, that's not good going from smaller to bigger." Well, I'd rather have it smaller to bigger, and if it doesn't line up exactly right, we don't have a big ledge right in our air path, right? I'd rather have it step up to larger size. Now, will that add some turbulence? Yeah, it probably will. But it also helps for reversion. So there's that. All right, I gotta keep hitting the pause button. You can see I gave this little shot of Dicam. You can see a little bit on the bottom because I have to do the Dicam after I test the manifold, so I have to set it back up with the clay. On the left, you can see a little bit on that short side radius where I just cannot get in there with the burr. I could probably get a little bit smaller burr in there, but that's neither here or there. It worked out pretty well. Okay, guys, since it is the last test I'll be doing with this, I did give it a little extra Dicam, as you can tell by the amount that's around the plug. The whole time I tested it, I kept forgetting to put the right size plug in there, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. But you can see how it comes up through the chamber and on the back. Now, if you notice, the chamber isn't quite polished, but it was so incredibly rough as cast, I had to do a little something with it. So it did get a little burr action, a little stone action, and a little cartridge roll action, just to make it not so aggressively rough. It was so rough I was actually worried about hot spots. Not usually something I do. Usually I use a light burr texture on the chambers. Okay, this view you can see we go right down to the bottom, and we're really nice and wide as far as the liquid. Don't really see much on the other side of the guide. Looks pretty clean. Overall, I'm going to take it as a win as far as our liquid flow. The valve that handled the duties was a stock 1.92 cut with a 45 with a back cut. You can see how much blue you actually get on the valve itself. Against the back of the valve it hits, where it comes through the chamber. Okay, not easy to see, but we do have some blue on the short side. We've got it on that divided wall. Overall, I think these turned out really well. I kind of like them. Now, I did say that these had a lot of inclusions and stuff, and you may see where there's still a couple inclusions left, because it doesn't really make any sense to grind an inclusion out if it ruins the shape at that point. You might as well just leave the inclusion in. As a matter of fact, you can see a couple of inclusions on the left side of that guide. So I got the shape that I wanted to, and there's still some inclusions there. Guess what? They stay. It's not really going to affect anything anyway. Overall, I like it. Okay, it's very rare to see me fully polish an exhaust, and it's not even fully polished. I did go over it with a sand roll because I felt like it. You can still see we have a few spots where the burr was. Remember, I don't want to ruin the shape that I have, and as it is, polished. When I polish something, it usually doesn't look as good as when I do it with a burr. Okay, but I did have to redo all the valve jobs. They looked pretty good when I first looked at them, and then they weren't up to my standards, so they all got touched. And he actually texted me today. Should I get 202s? I just wrote, it's already done for 1.92s. I didn't say anything else at that point, but I'm sure that's what it's going to get. I mean, if he really wanted me to upgrade the size on the intake, we could do it, but that would be an extra, and I know how money is, so. Alright, a little bit different view of the exhaust port. Like I said before, really like the exhaust port shape. You can see what I did. I changed up the valve job a little bit, and I narrowed the 45. I took our throat cut and I did my radius, and then I polished it because it was relatively tight. So polishing a tight radius makes a big difference as far as flow, and I think you'll see when we get to the flows, these worked out really nicely. Okay, you can actually see I didn't completely finish the floor. There's a little bit of a lip there. I probably will take that out. I think I took it out on the other head. I just forgot on this head. But this is the one we flowed today. So this is the one we're going to look at on the sheets. As usual, the outlet is stock size. Okay, didn't have to make it any bigger. In fact, I took very little metal out of this exhaust port. I only took metal out of it where I thought it needed it by the airspeeds. See, as far as I'm concerned, those light reflections, they just don't look as good on a polished port as they do on my burr port. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. The OCD can get a hold of you, and you just waste way too much time trying to make stuff pretty. Remember, guys, pretty makes it fast, right? I think that's a funny joke. I'm going to use it a couple times. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. You can see your radius going into your throat. It's not completely polished on that short side. I probably could have done a little bit better job on that, but this is the one we flowed. So we'll be taking a look at that. Almost forgot to show you the bore again. Take a look how far back it goes. And I definitely sprayed a little extra. I know I did. So we got extra chunkiness all the way around. Okay, so this was our second cut. Flows and swirls. This is our finish. Now, how'd we do? Well, what tends to happen is, like my second cut, be probably about the best I'm going to do in this lower range. Usually when I do more work trying to get the higher lift flows, I will lose all around this. In this case, I didn't do too bad, though. I mean, we actually got a decent increase on the low lift, which is not really something I'm looking for. But remember, it's also a very short can. So that may actually be an advantage, right? Remember, truck application. The customer was looking for 400 horsepower for a 360 with a truck. Okay, Ram Charger. So we got a plus, plus, plus. We lost a little bit right here, but only the tiniest amount, right? From 140.1 to 140. 169, 165.6. Okay, we just lost just a little bit there. And then we started to gain. We gained quite a bit up here. It maxed out as 267 at 575, which is more than we'll be lifting it. Okay, and then she starts to lose it, but that's above where we're going to be running it, so it's not really that important at that point. As far as our swirl, minus, plus, 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 minus, minus, and where we're going to be running, we got 2,600 and change, which is more than enough. I don't have a problem with any of them. Now, did we do better or did we do worse as far as our airspeeds? Let's take a second to look at them. Okay, I realized I forgot to show you guys the short side radius of the intake. Now this is the one we flowed, right? You can see it's got the blue on it. It's got a bunch of nasty inclusions on that center wall, but obviously it didn't hurt us too much. And let's see if I can get this where the light is not in your eyes. And it did get a light polish on the short side, okay? But what that wound up doing is it increased how much flow we get around the short side. So we'll see that on the airspeeds. Okay. So, here. That's where we were. All right. Remember we had that real low spot? In fact, it was going in and out of 0 at the top of the pushrod pinch. And what did I do to fix that? Well, actually, I didn't do anything to it. I did put... Since the pinch was relatively tight and I didn't want to make it bigger because it is a truck application, right? What I did is I polished just the edge of that push rod pinch. And it did get quite a bit better. Is it perfect in every way? Like Wi-Fi? No. But it's better. Okay, so you can see we got plus, minus, minus. Okay, center of the cylinder was 223. It went down a little bit to 213 because we're getting more around the short side. Okay. Cylinder wall side, 210. Went down considerably, right? Now, those aren't too far off. Those are about 30 off. Those are actually closer. Those actually look better. But these flow better. Okay? All these speeds were taken at about 500, which is about where he's going to be as far as his lift on his cam. So that's where we were. Those actually don't look bad, right? 363, 364, very even across the short side radius. Really good. And there's our finished. Really good. All right? Got plus, minus, minus. Tough to beat that for being even, really. Those are actually better numbers across the short side. Okay? Alrighty, let's move on to our exhaust. Alright, I feel like I'm missing a flow test somewhere, and that, don't kill me if I did. I'm sorry, guys. These are actually our first cut flow numbers. So, this is what they were. I think there was a cut between them, but I'm not sure. And this is where we are. So how do we do? Plus, minus, plus, 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 plus. With a 1 7/8 pipe, we were 206. With a 1 7/8 pipe at 500 with 228. Not bad for a stock exhaust valve. 1.625. Literally a stock Chrysler valve. Okay? No funny business on it all. Just jammed it in there. Not bad at all. You know, we're 200 plus without a pipe, 228 with a pipe, and some of these increases are pretty big. Like we had noise here, right? Got rid of the noise, and look how much we picked up. We went from 104 to 123.7. Really nice pickups. Okay, a couple of them are close. And then as soon as it gets to a certain point, they just take off. Now let's take a look at our airspeeds from one to the other. Okay, that's our first cut sheet. So those are our first cut speeds. All right. And there's where we ended up. Let's do the pluses and minuses. Okay, not bad. New stuff on the bottom. Plus, 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 minus. Lost a little bit right in the very center of the port on the floor. Remember, though, that's the exhaust. I left that notch by mistake. I don't know if that really made that much of a difference. And on the right, plus, plus, plus. Take a look at how even it is side to side. Look in the middle, 325 on the left, 331 on the right. Really nice. Look at the floor. 272 on the left, 288 on the right. That little exhaust port, and it is little, is absolutely moving. Okay, that is these flows. I think that's more than enough exhaust flow to get done what we got to do. Now, of course, what we need to do now is we need to start planning this build. I also did the flows with the intake and the carb. So hopefully I'll get them done and show you guys what is actually going to be going into the engine next couple days. But we do have to start working on our plan for this. I believe it's 360. It's got that nice Edelbrock intake that I put a really rough texture on. It's got these heads. He wants to use a small roller, about 500 lift. I have to get the rest of the specs. I said something about 33-inch tires. I need the gears and transmission and stuff like that. But you guys can start to working on that for homework. Can we get a 200 horsepower setup out of this? I did a little looking today at some other Chevy Vortec and Magnum ported numbers. These are pretty good. Just saying. Not bragging, just saying. Yeah, there are guys that beat these, but I'm willing to bet they're nowhere near as small a port as these. Yeah, I guess I'm going to have to actually pour them and find out. Not looking forward to that. And I also have a stock Magnum he dropped off that was cracked. Run past me what you'd like me to do with that Magnum. Maybe I'll take a couple hours and do what my audience would like to see. All right, guys. Did I forget anything that I need to show you? I think we're pretty good. Rough couple days. Sorry I didn't get to put anything out. But, you know, you're going to have kids. You're going to get stuff like that happening. So, you know how it is. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night.